Welcome to the Earth Intuitive Podcast, a hub for sensitive and intuitive women to feel comforted, supported, and whole in their healing journey. Through a blend of energetic updates and Ayurvedic holistic health themes with a focus on sensitivity, we find wholeness through mind, body, spirit medicine in a community of women who feel it all. I'm your hostess, Brittany Nelson, Ayurvedic health counselor, yoga teacher, and highly sensitive soul. Hello, everyone. I'm recording this on a sick day, but doing a podcast is actually quite relaxing. So if my voice sounds a little funky just for a moment, that's why. But I'm really excited to dive into this episode. This episode is with my longtime yogini friend, Erika van Gemeren. She's been teaching yoga, you guys, for 18 years in the SF Bay area. She is an Ayurvedic health coach. We went to Ayurveda school together, mystic, priestess, tantrika, and musician. She's been delving into the esoteric arts most of her entire life. She's an incredible yoga teacher, and she does courses with women. And she really, really embodies the classical forms of yoga and Ayurveda. It's so lovely spending time with her. So today is going to be a little bit more of a classical Ayurvedic episode. So if you know a little bit about Ayurveda, you have probably heard of the doshas. Dosha is Sanskrit for an imbalance. It's also representative of the three main archetypal energies in Ayurveda. So when we classify a person or a time of day or an energy, it is made up of these different elements together that make up all three of the doshas. So we're going to learn about all of that. We're going to release the notion that doshas are bad or that they need to be fixed. And so we talk about ways that we can balance our doshic tendencies. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, stick around. We're going to explain all of it. It's a really fascinating episode and it's very practical. So it's going to help you learn how to balance whatever season of life you're in, whatever season of the year you're in, and whatever physical or psychological things you're encountering right now. We're going to learn how to balance it on an elemental level. Lastly, Erika gave us a wonderful gift of Yoga Nidra. This is a practice that you could do laying down to rest. It's almost like taking a little yogic nap. It's deeply healing whenever you're feeling stressed out or tired or overwhelmed. This is a 30-minute practice that you can do in the middle of the day before bed. It's really good when you're traveling or if you're feeling exhausted or depleted. Highly recommend. Yoga Nidra in hypnotherapy has changed my life for the better, especially if you've always been a person that cannot nap during the day. In order to receive this 30-minute practice, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram. It's in the show notes. So just go ahead and give me a follow and then send me a DM and I will send you the link. If you do not have Instagram, that's fine. Send me an email at brittany@earthintuitive.com. That's also in the show notes. And I will email you the practice to have at home. All right, guys, let's get into the episode. All right. Hi, Erika.
Hey, Brittany.
How are you? Long time no see.
I know, it's so good to see you. I'm doing well. Yeah, just here in Nevada County amongst the trees. It feels really good. Feels like I'm rooted.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Erika now lives in Nevada City, Grass Valley area of California. It's absolutely gorgeous, especially in the summer. The Yuba River is like this magical floating river that's like you could see through the water. I actually moved there for a short period just because of the Yuba River. So Erika and I have known each other now for, 10 years, probably maybe more. We met in the Bay Area through the yoga community. We also attended, I think, all of Ayurveda school together as well through Katie Silcox's program. So super excited for this convo. Usually the folks I meet with, I haven't even met them in person, but me and Erika have known each other for a really long time. So I'm excited. And today we're going to talk about the doshas and sort of demystifying how they can be seen as bad or something we need to fix. And so, Erika, I would love from your voice, from your perspective, you've been living and breathing yoga for 20 years, something like that. And so, just from your studies, your experience, if somebody listening to this has never heard of the term dosha, what does that mean?
Well, dosha technically means a constitution, and we are, you know, in this system working with the five elements, the Mahabhutas, the great elements, which are earth, fire, water, air, and ether. And so there's three different doshas, and they, you know, are all these different elements that are grouped into each other. Like, for instance, Vata is air and ether, and Pitta is fire and water, and Kapha is earth and water. And so the dosha, more specifically, when it's out of balance, is something that we're working with the imbalances.
Yeah, cool. And people ask me this a lot. They're like, am I just one dosha? Can I have multiple doshas? Like, do they change over time? Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Maybe we could even get into like prakriti, vikriti as well.
Yeah, I think we all like to label ourselves, and especially, we do this with astrology, and you know, I've heard people say like, I'm Vata, but we're not just all Vata, right? Like we are all five elements, but we have ones that are more prominent, and we are born with a certain constitution, and then there's also certain times of day and times of the year that we're dealing with it. So it's not something to label yourself as, but it's to know like how to work with the different elements.
Yeah, totally. And I really feel that, there's this like pop culture around astrology. Like, I'm a Virgo or I'm a Gemini, I'm a classic Gemini. Here's what Geminis do. And it's like fun, but at the same time, it's such a tiny part of your chart. And so I think that also can apply with doshas. I'm very Pitta, but there's a huge part of me that's very Kaphic. There's a big part of me that's very Vata. There's a big part of me that's balanced. It depends on the season, things change a lot. And so I really want this conversation to assure people that we can, really come to this conclusion that we are a mixture of all the elements. All of us have all of the elements in us, and things change over time depending on where we're living. If we're living on a mountaintop in Colorado where it's cold and dry, we're probably going to have more Vata symptoms versus if we live in Hawaii where it's humid and hot and moist. We're going to have very different things going on in our body and in our psyche. And so, to really, I don't know, just celebrate yourself as an individual who is always changing, always moving. I think it's important that we all get to know each archetype and celebrate their challenges and also celebrate their gifts. And so I would love to go into each dosha type and we can talk about all of that. So we could talk about the challenges, whether that's physical health symptoms, personality traits that might come from that, and also the gifts that come. And so I'd like to start with, they call it the king or the queen of doshas, which is Vata dosha. So as a reminder for everyone listening, if you don't know what this is, it is the mixture of air and ether together. And so it's more of a dry, cold energy that can happen in our body, in our psychology as well. So Erika, I'm going to let you take it away with Vata. Anything you want to share about your experience with the Vata dosha, what it looks like in people to have a high Vata constitution. Maybe we could talk about their physicality, their mind, just whatever you want to share about Vata.
Awesome. Yeah. So physically, people with Vata constitution are typically tall and slender. They can't keep a lot of weight on them. They move quickly. They speak quickly. The imbalances can be like really spacey and kind of like in the ethers. And so a lot of people who are clairvoyant, mystics, are Vata dosha predominantly. And it's actually right now that we're doing this from 2 to 6 p.m. is Vata hours. So
Yes.
it's a time where you want to like grab for your coffee to like keep things going because you're starting to feel like, woo, this is like a lot. We've burned through the workday, tended to, and maybe been in a lot of conversations and communication, and that increases Vata dosha when we're talking a lot. When you're a teacher, you're chit chatting with all your students, and then you're just like, oh man, I need like a burger right now, or I need to like ground and maybe do a yoga nidra. But typically we go for the coffee and we keep going, and that's just like creating more wind in our system because everything that backs movement backs the Vata dosha. And so it's going to create dryness in our skin. It's going to create, it's an airy, light quality. So, it might create confusion. And yeah, so you want to just think like how to find the anecdote for that, and that's usually like maybe a yoga nidra or a legs up the wall, and or like an asana practice that's really grounding, or a yin practice. Eat a sweet potato, do something that's gonna bring you back down to the earth.
Hmm. I love that the wind chime just was going off when you were talking about Vata, by the way. It's like, oh, so soothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's so many people like this, and I think that not only people like this, but just that our culture is very Vata'd out because we are less connected to the nature, we're less connected to the earth. We're all on Zooms and email, and even that is Vata because there's no water earth element at all. It's all communication, internet, waves. That's all Vata as well. And so I think our culture is really in a Vata imbalance most of the time. And so, what you were speaking to about doing those things to bring back the earth element is so, so, so important. So, when we do that, when we stay in check with our Vata, we don't let it get too out of control where we can then experience anxiety or forgetfulness or anything associated with being spacey, things like that. I would love to talk about the gifts of Vata. And so if somebody listening to this is like, that is me, how do I stay balanced? Maybe we talk about that, but also I want to really focus this conversation on the gifts of Vata and really go deeper into that when we keep it balanced, which is the number one most important thing. What are those gifts of Vata and how do we really celebrate that part of ourselves that is a little more spacey and airy and maybe not as rooted to this earth plane?
Yeah, I love this question. I touched on it a little bit before, but I think like the clairvoyancy is really strong. Like mystics are, um, you know, we're clear seers. We were able to like read a room quickly. You know, they're always like wind is change, right? So they're like very adaptable to change, and that they might be like changing their furniture all the time, and like always just like something, trying something new. They're not so stuck in their ways.
Mhm.
And yeah, a lot of like writers, things like this, like communication comes easily.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I would even say like some people who are nomads are also very Vata because that's travel, like moving, like you said, change. That's a
Hmm.
lot of Vata. And so, yes, it can be destabilizing, but at the same time, if you're able to ground yourself, travel brings so many gifts to this planet and, really brings a lot of new ideas, new perspectives, and things like that. What are like, if you were to have a client come to you or student come to you, what are the top things that you recommend if someone is in a Vata stage of their life, which we could talk about, which is also that, later part of life, perimenopause and up, or if they're just feeling a lot of Vata in their life or in their body, what are a few top things you would recommend them do, eat, practice, focus on, anything you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I think that routine. Vata really likes routine, so we do a thing called dinacharya in Ayurveda, which is the daily ritual, and it's tongue scraping and neti potting, and then abhyanga for sure, which is the oiling of your body. Um, your skin is governed by vayu, which is the wind, and so when you're putting oil on your actual skin, you're calming the winds down, and the oil is actually seeping all the way down into your bones, which the bones are the earth element, so that's going to really ground you. And we want to eat all at the same times because that really regulates our agni, our fire. And things to eat would be like anything from the earth, any root vegetables. Bone broths are really good for this. Having ghee, things that are healthy fats, and maybe even some sweetness like dates and sesame seeds. And you want to just think like anything that's unctuous, that's going to create more of the earth and water element.
Yeah, and if you're a Vata person and you love popcorn or dry chips or dry toast or cold juices, do you want to speak to
Yeah.
that, Erica?
Yeah, that is something we always kind of tend to gravitate towards the thing that like aggravates our dosha. So like if we're Pitta people, we go towards like spice, or Vata people tend to go for, like you said, crackers and things that are dry.
Mhm.
And so we always want to think like if the qualities of it are light, dry, and cool, then we want to go for like warmth and something that is like a rasiana, something that's really nectarous and going to like bring in that juice that we need.
Mm, yes. Lately, one of my favorite things to eat is just like sourdough bread, really good quality sourdough toast with butter and raw honey on top. Oh my God,
Mm.
it's amazing. Because
I
you
can
have
taste
that,
it right now.
yeah, you have that fat, so it's like you could still enjoy your toast, you could still enjoy your crackers here and there, but make sure you're adding that element of earth and water and bringing that in. And that's when your gifts can really shine because you're still grounded enough to complete your tasks, to complete what you're focusing on, but you're not so vated out where you're like forgetting what you're doing or not able to sit still. And I've definitely been there as a kid. I had a lot of issues with sitting still.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And so
What
I guess like anything that you want to offer for people, you just kind of offered some wonderful like remedies for Vata, stuff to do every single day. Is there anything more geared toward the mind? Because I feel like the mind can move really fast when there's a lot of Vata dosha at play. And sometimes people that are Vatas, they move way faster than the earth moves or that, other people move. Anything that would help them with the mind, or do you think it's more about just tending to the body and then the mind kind of just follows suit?
That's an interesting question. I mean, yes, like we always want to enter into the body because it's all connected, right? And when we can, come into our asana practice, this is like something that we are grounding into the bones. We're steadying the breath, which steadies the wind, right? Which is steadying the chitta vrittis, the churnings of our mind. And the more wind that we have, the mind's going to start to spin more incessantly. So, having that be part of your ritual with dinacharya, with all the things, then you might want to add like a short meditation, making sure that you have times where you're working too, like maybe it's like 10 to 2, you have these windows, right? So that you can really focus. And like you said, with all the screens open and everything, that's creating more vata. So it's like having an alarm, when you're on your social media, having an alarm of how much time you actually allow yourself. But I think, like what actually first came to mind was honestly like a child's pose, just like putting your forehead to the ground and putting a sandbag on your sacrum and
Mhm.
setting a timer for 5 minutes and just doing like a samavriti, like a same inhale in and the same exhale out, or maybe even the box breath, 4 counts in, you hold 4 counts, you exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. It's
Mhm.
going to calm your anxiety. You're going to get into your body and into your bones. And if you can just give yourself that break from that mental agitation of always figuring in the frontal cortex of where we're really trying to figure, and contemplate and analyze things, you just kind of, need to give yourself that break to then just go back to the earth, go back to the bones.
Yeah, it's so important. And I know that I used to be a huge overthinker, and I'm still a big analyzer. It's just who I am, and I celebrate that about myself. But it used to be so bad that I would just spin. My mind would spin, spin, spin. And so I think a good practice for people is like if you catch yourself, and the more you're aware of it, the more you can catch yourself overthinking a situation 500 times, knowing that that's not going to solve the problem. And then, like you said, coming back to your body, literally putting your head on the earth, putting your thumbs on your forehead, putting some pressure there, getting under a hot shower, like just sort of like distracting your body, I think can be such a beautiful thing for that vata at play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to get into. I've noticed a lot of people I've talked to, especially if they're older women, they struggle with the Vata window in the middle of the night. And so we were talking about Vata during the day, which is 2 to 6 p.m., but that's also at night as well. So 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. What is your take if someone were to come to you and say, I keep waking up in the middle of the night? Like, what does this mean? Or what do I do? Like, how do you guide them when they are coming to you with that issue, because that does mean that there's a lot of vata going on.
Well, just as we have dinacharya, we have a daily ritual, we have a night ritual.
Yeah.
And I know it seems like a lot of steps, and but once you kind of have it down, it's so it just it really helps. And sleep is, Katie talks about this. It's a pillar of health. So yeah, that's typically when the insomnia hours happen. So what I guide people to do is definitely, if they could do a second abhyanga, amazing, because that oil again is going to seep into your bones. You're going to have a better night's sleep. Castor oil is really grounding. It's a very apana vayu, which means that the vayu is the wind and apana is that downward descending current. So it's going to, you can put it on your belly. I actually like to take a tablespoon of it at night.
Like
And
internally?
internally.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, typically like during cleanses, we do like a purge at the end, and we do like a castor oil purge, but it is safe to take a tablespoon at night.
Okay.
And it's literally like seeping down into your bones and bringing you down into the earth, because it's a Panavayu oil. And so honestly, sometimes I forget to take it just because I'm doing 1 million other things in
Yeah.
my routines. And but when I do take it, I have the best night's sleep ever.
Wow. And do you just take it by itself or with water?
I I just take it by myself, by
Mhm.
like a tablespoon. And I will tell you, honestly, sometimes when I even think about it, I have this like gag reflex because
Yeah.
it's disgusting. It's thick and it does not taste good. So I just kind of get it done, because I have
Mhm.
so many potions that I'm doing all day long, and it's just like I'm ready to go to bed at this point. Um, but yeah, and you want to be, and bless you, you want to take it, right before you go to bed, because there have been times where I have taken it and felt nauseous. It can
Mm.
make you feel nauseous a little bit. So you want to take it like when you're going to bed. Another thing I like to do is magnesium, like magnesium baths, magnesium on your feet, turning down all the lights, all your computers, shutting that off an hour before you go to bed. And Triphala is beautiful at night too. And lavender, something that's just going to soothe you and and help you go to sleep. And also, if you have the time to do like a couple restorative poses, just like some forward folds, which really calm the anxiety and bring you back into your bones, and just, really allowing, it's like, I think Katie also said this, it's just like every day we're gifted, it's like a rebirth, and then at night we're dissolving, we're going to sleep, and it's a death of the day. And so just really honoring that and going into that like Kapha time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's so many more, but we won't get into all of it. But that was a beautiful list. And for those of you that are like, I want to do all the things, or I didn't catch that, or whatever, I always recommend just try one thing at a time. If there's something that you really perked up from and you're like, ooh, I want to try that, just do the one thing, because if we overwhelm ourselves, then there's going to be more anxiety. And so we want to, the opposite of complicated is simple. So keeping it simple.
Unless you're a Pitta dosha like me too, then
Yeah.
you want to do everything.
You want to try all the things. Yes. So that being said, I know we could talk about Vata a million more years, but we'll move on to Pitta so that we aren't talking for 2 hours. But yeah, Erika, let's talk about Pitta. And for those of you who don't know what Pitta is, how would you describe it to them?
Well, Pitta, physically, it's typically, people with medium bones, very like sharp eyes, sharp features. Sometimes they're competitive. They're kind of these like type A go-getters. Strong digestion, can err on the side of like diarrhea, loose stools. There's just a lot of like excess fire. It's fire and water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the time of life that is like from 20 to about 50, 55, 60 even sometimes. And it's like really the time that we're, building our careers, or we're having babies, we're, having aging parents. There's a lot of stress. So there's like a lot of things that we have to tend to. So it's really this like, time of life where we're getting shit done.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And how would you describe them from people who really resonate with this energy? Like, what are their greatest gifts? I know you touched on a couple of them, but like, and maybe talking about the gift of fire and what does that mean?
Yeah, it usually comes with like a really strong drive and a strong intellect, and they're quick, and they're usually like the people that are always just ready to like help too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's definitely a big part of my constitution. So, I was able, this is like, I had been practicing yoga since 1995, I think, but I was a hairstylist, and I worked in San Francisco, and I was a wild child, and, I would go out all night and party all night, and then go and like do hair from 9 to 5, totally hungover, drinking coffee.
Yep.
All day long. And then I'd go and I'd take a vinyasa class or 3, and then I'd go out and do it all over again.
Wow.
And I had so much fire.
Yeah.
I had so much fire, and I burned it really brightly.
Mm-hmm. I can relate because I have a lot of pitta, and I used to be a big partier when I was really young. Now I can't do it at all, but
Yeah.
yeah, we can burn through it really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, maybe we could just touch on really quick like the transformative power of fire with our digestion, but also just like in life, like what does that look like? And that's sort of, I feel like that's some of the highest gifts of like that pitta energy.
Yeah, I mean, fire is what warms us, obviously. It's our digestion, it's our Agni, it's what metabolizes everything. And not just our food, but through all our five senses. So when we're taking in information on our screens and our phones, and even just in relationship, we have to digest all of that. And when we have a healthy fire, we're really able to assimilate life's experiences. And when we don't, it's like fire it burns us. It can initiate us and take us down. And so it's really important to know how to harness it, because it's what brings us, insight. Right? Like if we're in a dark room, it's like we turn on a light or we turn on a candle, we put the flame up, and all of a sudden we can see. And that's what we're really cultivating in our practice of like yoga per se. We are building Agni in the core. We're doing these breath practices to really blow on those embers and to stoke the fire, so that we can start to really see clearly what actions we're taking, whether it's the food that we eat, the people we spend our time with, what we choose to watch on our social medias, or through, what we read. And all of this has imprints. And it's so interesting because through the eyes, they're governed by fire. It's like, this is why we have to turn our screens off before we go to sleep, because all that fire is still just like percolating, or it's just like in our system. And so yeah, I don't know if I've gotten a little bit off topic, but
it's great.
Yeah, it's just it's the great illuminator. We're just really we're this is, and the Atma and the soul, like this is the spark of the divine. This is the fire. The soul is like the fire itself. And so, I always think of like Shiva, he's the fire tender, and we're always tending to this fire as yoginis and yogis to keep it lit, so we can stay healthy and we can burn through our ama, our congestion. And ama is really anything that's undigested. It's not just, again, our food, but it's our undigested experiences, our thoughts. And so this is why we have to like toss everything into the fire in our practice and clear all that out, clear the gunk out, so then we can start to really see the actions that we're taking, right? Because every action we take creates karma.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so beautiful. I love that tie-in with like the fire is our soul. Like I feel like Pitta is so tied to like why we're here and our bigger purpose in life. And so Pitta people are usually career people. Like they love tending to that fire, to that deeper purpose in life, whether that's their, career to make money or a bigger vocation or purpose. And, with all of that juiciness and goodness, there's also the problematic side with the fire, which I feel like in our culture, coffee is really popular for a reason. Being productive is celebrated, which, yes, that's all great stuff. We want to keep moving forward as a society, but it's gotten to the point where so many people are burnt out. So many people are exhausted, chronically exhausted, chronic fatigue, chronic health issues, then that pushes the nervous system and all sorts of stuff. And so we want to make sure that the fire doesn't get too hot. And I think both of us talked about how we have had periods in our life where the fire did get too hot. And so just kind of like what we did with Vata, how would you help remedy too much fire if someone has a lot of Pitta dosha, or if they're just in a Pitta part of their life? What are some things that you would recommend for them to stay balanced?
You got to cool your jets, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Essentially, yes.
Yeah. I really like when I was speaking about that time in my life when I was just wild and going out and, listening to my music at volume 11, smoking cigarettes, doing all the things. I remember I was hungover. I was driving to San Francisco to go do hair, and I thought to myself, I had my coffee in my hand. I was starting to have almost like a panic attack, and I was like, I need to quit drinking coffee. That was like my first vice that I let go of.
Wow. Yep. Yep.
because I could just feel my adrenals, and adrenals are what pump out our cortisol, adrenaline, and they live on top of our kidneys. It's in the back body, so I would prescribe people for Pitta, though they won't want to do it, some restorative yoga and, just like some supine twists and yeah, just letting go of the stimulants, because this is like the Manipura. The Manipura is our solar plexus. It's the power center. It's where our fire is. It's where our liver and our stomach is. And it's that addiction to stimulants and even like cocaine here, like anything that's just like, we got to keep going, we got to keep this machine going. And it is very addictive because it is in our culture, and our culture just gives us a pat on the back for how much we do.
Yes.
And we don't, people don't see that the amount of time that we're just sitting still or practicing, a yin restorative class. But it's like, yeah, so I think, and as far as food, it would be like more cooling. We don't want to, we still want to eat some cooked food, and it depends on what time of year it is. Like in summertime, we can eat more raw, we can eat less cooked foods, but still we want to keep, a balance, but we can definitely go into that like cooling aspect. Yeah, coconut oil, that's really cooling if we were doing our abhyanga, something that's gonna like bring the inflammation down. You
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah. And I know pizza people, we love Mexican food or spicy food or sangria. I know Katie talked about that. Like we love all the
Hmm.
things, dark chocolate and
Hmm.
coffee. And it's not to say you have to give all of it up at once, but like, maybe just see what is causing the most issues and you may not know. And so you could just like very slowly experiment with cutting things down. And if you have 3 cups of coffee a day, maybe you take that down to 2 for a while, and then maybe over time you can do these things in baby steps, and I don't
Absolutely.
want people to feel overwhelmed because that can happen with Ayurveda sometimes. And so I think if we do things in a gentler way, which is actually anti-pitta anyway, if we have too much pitta and we do things gently and slowly, that's actually going to help that aggressiveness of pitta. Yeah, and then let's see. So, do you want to speak really quickly about just the pitta? We kind of touched on the pitta time of life, maybe like the pitta time of day, if you want to speak to that real quick.
Yeah, so Pitta hours are from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and this is, typically the bulk of our work. If,
Mhm.
we're doing things in the office or whatever, we're going to teach the yoga class or we're seeing clients, it's the time of, it's when the sun is at the highest, like in the daytime, usually like around 12, 1, 2. So it's really when we can meet that fire and get things done. And then it's again at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So this is why, like in Ayurveda, they say definitely go to bed before 10 p.m. because it's like the witching hour, and you'll notice like if you miss that window, it's harder to go to sleep. I know for myself, like if I don't start to do my nightly ritual and I'm not like winding down by 9 p.m., if I don't go to bed by 10, I'm up and tossing and turning, and it's harder for me to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And also, it's like, don't, if you live with your partner and you have like a heated conversation, you don't want to get into like a heated conversation at 9:45 p.m. because it's just
Yeah.
gonna, that pitta hour is just, we're gonna be more aggressive. We're gonna be, we need our sleep. We've just gone into that kapha time where we're unwinding and we're trying to like really go into that yin, into that darkness.
Hmm. So important. I love it. Cool. So this leads us to my personal favorite dosha, and the last one, which is Kapha dosha, and that is the combination of water and earth. So Erica, I'll just let you take it away with explaining what is it, what are the gifts, what are the challenges, physically, mentally, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, Kapha dosha is probably my least prominent dosha, and I think I'm pretty like tridoshic, I would say, but when it comes to like what's out of balance, Kapha dosha can like happen in the springtime, but it's the gifts of it are like I always when I've heard it be explained, it's like a cow. They're so docile and like beautiful, big eyes, and just really steady, grounded, earthy people. Usually their skin is like really lustrous and just, it can be like dark skin, just really like they move slowly, they talk slowly, and everything's just like really sweet. And like the refined essence of Kapha dosha is our ojas, which is our vitality and our immunity. And it's, yeah, the earth and water, which is it's grounding and it's fluid and it's like it's love, like it just feels like really like a big hug.
Yeah. Like a mama bear energy, I feel like, is what I think of
Yeah,
Kapha. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Actually, I've been connecting with Nubia a lot up
Oh,
here, and if for those of you that aren't familiar with Nubia, she's Jayutal's wife, and they just moved up to Grass Valley, and she's like someone who like she's like she can have coffee because she's
hmm.
kapha, and but she's just like when you look at her, she's just like so like just love, like her
Yeah.
face is just you just want to give her a hug, and she gives you the best hugs.
Yeah. She's one of my yoga teachers I trained with, and
Yeah.
oh my God, she's incredible. I miss her classes. I miss your classes too, by the way, Erica. But yeah, I live in a different area now where there's not as much of that. But yeah, that's a great explanation of kapha. And so we can even speak to like pregnancy as being kind of a kaphic thing because it's that element or the energy rather of building and of sustaining life. So do we want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I mean, you're just building, like you said, and it's like you're like nourishing this other being.
Hmm.
So it's like this nourishment. That's what I think of kapha dosha. It's like everything unctuous, everything like sweet dates, ghee, the sesame seed oil. It's like it's just like this grounding, loving, and when we talk about abhyanga, they use a term called sneha, which means love. And so, like, when we're really putting that oil on our body and we're loving ourselves, that's, what I feel like pregnancy. I've never carried a child to full term, but
Hmm.
I have been pregnant. And, I just remember that feeling like I was so in love. I was so in love with that being already, and I just felt like I was just radiant, and it just felt like it was like no other feeling I've ever had before.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. And do we want to speak to, I guess, really quickly, because we just talked about the gifts of Kapha, but like, I guess the role in the world of like a Kapha person or just the Kapha energy, it seems like love, nurturance, anything else, because I feel like our world needs so much more Kapha dosha. I feel
Mhm.
like we're starving for it.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's steadiness, and they work really hard too, but more steady, not like a pitta.
Hmm.
They're just like workhorses, but it's like very steady.
Yeah. And then if someone were to have a lot of kapha going on, maybe we could talk about what, what downfalls or challenges do kapha people go through or kapha energies? What do we do about it? You're just speaking to like kapha people. That is the one energy where they can have more spicy foods. They can have coffee. Like they're not as affected. They're not as sensitive to things like that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about like, what are some challenges they go through first, and then how would they remedy that?
Yeah, I think the challenges are, there's like it's physically heavy. Like it can be like excess weight. It can be sluggish digestion. It can be just feeling like, you don't want to get out of bed. A lot of mucus, a lot of like, sinuses or coating on our tongue. So yeah, the things that we recommend are like, definitely bringing in some spice to the food, with like our abhyanga. Depends on what time of year it is. Like in spring, you don't really want to use it so much, because it is the Kapha time anyhow. So I would recommend more like dry brushing, things that are going to really stimulate the lymphatic system, doing cardio, getting in infrared saunas, doing, active yoga. Yeah, and if they were going to do abhyanga, something with like a mustard seed oil, something that's going to be like really heating and not, not going to aggravate the kapha by putting more earth and water into their system.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to point out too, because we talked about the times of life for the other doshas and how kapha is basically childhood. And I always found it interesting because kids get sick so much. Do you want to speak to that a little bit and just like what does that represent in our soul's journey as well? Just this kapha energy.
Yeah, it's just like it's back to the elements. It's earth and water, right? So we have a lot of it, and this is why, like when we're babies, my mom always likes to call them rubber bands on their arms because you get those little fat rolls. We just look like those little cherubs.
Yeah.
And we're drooling all the time, and we're just like we're just like this little bundle of love, right?
Yeah.
So close to the other side from source, and it's like, yeah, and then over time, it's like, yeah, so that manifests obviously in like when I was young, I always had bronchitis, and there was, I could dig deeper on that around like, I had a really severe wounding at 5 years old when my dad left, and it was like I was such a daddy's girl, and he was my everything, and so like it was like heart chakra, and so we carried grief over in the lungs and over the heart, and so I think this is why it manifested in bronchitis a lot. So yeah, this is, and it's just a time where we're growing so much, and we're, just our bones are formulating. And so it's a beautiful time, and it's just the newness, the newness of everything. And
I think when I think of some of the challenges of kapha, I think of like being really lethargic or tired, maybe even sad or depressed, maybe overly attached to something, maybe, accumulating too much weight or water. So it's this like slow, sluggish thing. So if someone is experiencing any of those things, whether it's like physically in their body or in their mind, what are some things that you would recommend that's like best medicine for kapha?
I would say, well, the time of days that it is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So practice what I say and not what I do, because I definitely, I'm an early riser, but sometimes I listen to my body, and if it needs rest, I'll rest till like 7 a.m. But if you're really, really kaphic, if you get up before that 6 a.m. like window, it's going to really help improve your inertia and kind of that darkness, and get you into your fire. And then the first thing you want to do is just get like a lemon ginger tea and get that fire going. And then anything, like I said, like cardio and getting into your fire and moving the lymphatic system. Even those like vibration plates are really good. Like if you're feeling super lethargic and you just, are like, I don't know how I'm going to move my body right now. You get on that thing and it'll move your lymphatic system, and it'll just like move what is stagnant in your body, and then you might feel like, yeah, I could get on the trampoline for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you got. But that's a really good thing. Also, the rebounder is really good for kapha dosha.
Mm,
um, yeah, and just spice.
yeah.
Spice is good.
What are the best spices for kapha, would you say? Like for them to add to their food or tea, or what would you recommend?
um, Ginger is always one of my favorites. Turmeric is also, it's good for all the doshas, but that's gonna like, bring down inflammation, and then you'd want to add black pepper.
Mm.
Black pepper really helps aid the turmeric. I'm kind of blanking right now. I'm been like in a very Vata
That's okay.
state.
That's okay.
But like chai tea, something like that, like where
Mhm.
there's like ginger and cardamom and
Yeah.
um
Chai is my favorite. And once I gave up coffee, I kind of really gravitated toward chai. So it's a really good one.
mhm.
Um,
What would you recommend for people?
I mean, yeah, ginger I think is one of the best. Cinnamon, I feel like cinnamon is good for Vata even because it's actually warming. So
Yeah,
that's always good. Sweet thing, cardamom, that's also good for Vata. So yeah. But I would even say that if you're really, really kapha and you're really feeling sluggish and slow, like you can go way up and do like cayenne sometimes, or like some of
yeah.
the really, really spicy
Dense
herbs
peppers.
and
Hmm.
peppers and things that I can't personally have, but if you are kapha, and even coffee might be medicine for you.
Absolutely.
Probably not medicine for Vata or Pitta, but
I
uh,
did want to actually circle back to Pitta really quickly, like
yeah,
in my
yeah.
20s, because I was, I went through like a whole thing of like adult acne,
Hmm.
and, but I was drinking coffee, and, it was just like, it was all that inflammation coming
Yeah.
out. So yeah, I gravitated towards, my dad's from Bolivia, so we always had like almost eating contests, like who could eat the hottest pepper. And my dad had like so many digestion issues, and he was
Yeah.
he was a heart doctor, but he was a Western doctor, and so like I really feel like these are just it's just a simple recipe of just knowing the dosha and like what's out of balance and how we can counterbalance it.
It's so good. I think this is amazing. Is there anything else about the doshas, or even talking about what's beyond the doshas? Like, how do we harness the medicine of these elements? Like, anything else you want to speak to, I guess, on like a higher level of what we're doing all of this for, and that is to like make sure our body works well so that we can do our work in the world, right? And not feel overwhelmed by the challenges of our doshas and things like that. But if there's anything else you want to add, or anything that's like coming to you that you want to share, yeah, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, lately I've just been, I teach bhakti yoga, and it's all about devotion and love and service, and we can't take anything when we leave here, right? But a lot of the scriptures and a lot of the, you know, texts say that like when we actually transition, when all the earth and the water and the fire and the air are gone and we go into the ethers, that we take our frame of mind and we take our spiritual practice with us. And so this, practice of Ayurveda is really helping us stay in the body and nurture the temple body so that we can like sustain it. We can build that healthy ojas, and we can be strong so that we can continue to do our spiritual work.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. That was so well said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, if anyone wants to work with you or follow you, like, can you share what you have going on right now, where your offers are, and then where to find you?
So you can find me all online at erikavangemeren.com. It's a mouthful, but it's...
We'll put it in the
maybe
show
could you...
notes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I teach in Grass Valley public classes at Soul Space Collective. It's a really beautiful yoga center with a cafe, and I lead events there. I do a lot of workshops, and have Bodhi coming this weekend. We do like a mystic yin and sound bath, and so I work a lot with musicians. I lead kirtans and bring in really special guests. I've had Govindas come a couple times, and Astrud, who you actually told me about a long time ago, and she's become a really, really wonderful friend and just teacher. And and then I offer online trainings. I am going to be offering in the fall an 8-limb. It's called the Yoga Gospel. Just kind of, it's my Bible, so I called it the Yoga Gospel of just really how to, live a spiritual life. And so that will be an offering that will be in person and online, kind of a hybrid if you're not local to Nevada County. And then I just started my own Ayurveda line.
Oh, wow.
And I partnered with a man named Sam Palmer. I actually know him from the Bay Area, and he teaches also at Soul Space. And so he has a company called Embody Harmonics, where he has made like essential oils and deodorants that are really lovely. And so he asked me if I'd want to partner with him and make this Ayurveda line. So we made Abhyangas, and we made Karna Purana, which is the oil for your ears, and then we made a Nasya, the oil for your nose. So that's all under embodyharmonics.com.
Oh man, I gotta try some of that. I'm obsessed with oil.
The Pitta is just like, I'll just tell you, it is my favorite. If you
I
need
love
some
it.
Pitta oil. Yeah.
My fiance doesn't love my oil everywhere all the time, but I love it. So he's like, you have open bottles all over with no lids on.
Oh my God, I could go into the arguments that have happened with my partner. He's like, your sheets are all oily and everything has oil and you have so many potions. And I mean, that's what you get for dating a witch, man.
Exactly. It's like, welcome to the world. All right. Well, Erika, this was lovely. Thank you so much for being here. It was good to catch up with you and just nerd out on all things Ayurveda, which I could talk about all day. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Erika, for coming on the show. If you want to learn more about her offers, follow her on Instagram, her website, also the Ayurveda oil line. You could head to the show notes for all of those great links, and to snag that 30-minute Yoga Nidra practice again, you could just DM me on Instagram or send me an email in the show notes. Thank you all so much for being here. If you want to learn more about Ayurveda, I also have my own program called Nourished. This is 1 part Ayurvedic education, 2nd part Ayurvedic one-on-one counseling. You can learn so much more at my website at earthintuitive.com, where I accept free 20-minute consultations. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you soon.